Actual versus potential and the strategies put in place to optimize collections.
Chairs, you have noticed that we have consistently grown our revenue targets. At the moment, we're a bit constrained in terms of the growth projection. We hope to still have a growth projection this year because of efficiencies of the system and broadening the scope to ensure that we're covering every area. But the biggest challenge right now is increasing tax. If you attempt to increase tax at the local level, I'm sure we all know the situation in the country. That would be our greatest challenge, because what we would say, we would want to charge a little bit more for certain services, but we haven't increased the tax in the last 1 year because of the current economic problem in the country. However, we have broadened the coverage and improved efficiency and automated to ensure that we at least first making increasing our revenue output because of the efficiencies and coverage. In terms of the potential to increase revenue to 1 billion, we would have to increase the charges that we have right now. And at this point in time, I cannot say whether we'll succeed, because even the last time when we had proposed some changes in the financial bill at the county level, when it goes to the county assembly, it is reversed downwards because of when they do public participation and the payers of the revenue come and lobby, they adjust them back downwards. So we would have to get to a place where we all agree we are going to increase revenue despite the political ramifications. But at this point in time, I would actually be a bit hesitant. I would say let's be a bit more efficient, see if we can increase by another 50 million for a year. If the economy improves, then we can increase the taxes as we had proposed earlier. I submit, Chair.
You may notice that in the year under review, you were two lines that are usually easy to collect, especially with the automation, have dropped. Single business permits, I believe that's fully automated. There was a 10 million drop. And you see, business permits, you expect that the business people are renewing, unless it is indicative of the business environment in Kirinyaga. Another line is market fees. Again, market fees, I hope that you are not sending boys with rungus to collect from markets. I believe that it is, I hope it is automated. But there was about 8 million shilling drop. Now, some of these numbers, they might look abstract, but they can tell a story, either about the economic climate, or they can tell a story about leakage of revenue. I would expect that as an economy grows, and even with that 50 million shilling growth in top line, it would also reflect in specific streams, like permits and market fees. Is this proper accounting?
Chair, on the issue of the drop in single business permits is mostly because of the hard economic times. We've had very many small businesses close. Small businesses like salons that were there in the cyber cafes. We have had an impact because of the economy. And that's the same explanation with the market fees, because when people are not buying as much, then the people who sell in the market are not as many because there's no demand. And so it's mostly because a reflection of the hard economic times as opposed to anything else.
Well, that's one hypothesis. Another one could be leakage. Are the two lines automated fully?
Yes, they are.
The market fees and business permits?
Yes, they are.
So, Auditor General, please look at those issues. In fact, one thing I would like the Auditor General to look at, again, a relationship between a gross county product and its own source revenue. We've had KNBS giving us reports on how county GCP has been growing. And there needs to be a relationship between that and OSR, because even if the GDP grows, you expect a nation's revenues to grow. Can we go to the micro level and look up these things for us so that we are better informed. It's easy to say that the business environment or the economic climate is bad, but you might find that your GCP grew. I don't know whether you have those figures, because you're supposed to maintain county statistics. Yeah, so was there GCP growth in that year?
I would need to confirm that, but if there is a growth, it would be minimal. However, the statistics are done by the KNBS and they're given to us.
Ideally, counties are supposed to maintain their own statistics. Actually, it's in the 4th schedule. It's one area that you have failed to do. I know we have failed to pass the county statistics bill, but it is a power that you have. Sometimes we think KNBS cooks the numbers.
We are currently, they're doing a collaboration with several counties. Kirinyaga is one of them, where they are doing for us our statistical abstract, where we provide the technical support to collect the actual data, but the compilation and analysis is done by KNBS. I would have to look at the issue of the growth to see whether it is reflective of the...
Yeah, I think that can come from an independent assessment, either from OAG or from the Treasury. Members, any further contributions on ROR?
Yes. On the on-source revenue, Chair, this is my worry. My worry, Governor, is that, and I know you, at some point you served in the Treasury, and the rollout of devolution. And I think the focus for this country in terms of devolution was that we will get to a point that counties will generate a lot more income to sustain their own operations and rely less on exchequer releases from the national government. That's an ambition. I don't know what, maybe we'll get there somehow. The biggest challenge that I have is that two things. One, almost every county over-projects when it comes to on-source revenue. Almost every county, by almost 50%, they over-project. That, of course, has a contribution to the pending bills conversation. But secondly, I don't know how many counties, whether your county has done this. Madam Governor, I had an opportunity to visit a city in Canada, Quebec. And I found a business lady who really amazed me. She said, you know, we pay this amount of money to government in terms of tax. And personally, I'll be willing to pay even more because I see where my taxes go. Yeah? My children are going to school. I'm not paying nothing. The government is transporting them to school. If I fall sick, the government will definitely fix my bills. So even if they ask me to pay more, I will have no problem with that. Is it the case that governments, both local and national, have failed to demonstrate where the taxes they are collecting from people are going, and that is the reason why people will be unwilling to contribute to their own government? Because I expect that the government of Kirinyaga is for the people of Kirinyaga. So is it the case that people feel that they don't see where these taxes are going? And as you respond, please take note, and maybe I said you worked in the Treasury. I'm personally in the process of trying to bring a bill, and I hope it will find favor with you and other governors, to completely divorce the National Treasury and the Ministry of Finance, so that it is not one child being overfed and another child being starved from the national level. But talk to me about this overprojection of OSR all the time in all the counties, including Kirinyaga.
Governor, brief response.
Chair, on the issue of the overprojection, I think I explained earlier, sometimes it's pressure on what you need to fund. Sometimes it's being overly optimistic that the situation would improve, and therefore people project a lot more. The third issue sometimes is just an overestimation of your capability. Like in my view, I would want to see what it is I would be taxing to get to 1 billion shillings collection in Kirinyaga. Now, on the second question of shouldn't the counties be able to generate adequate OSR to be able to become less reliant on the national government, I think the model of our constitution never envisaged that the counties would be completely independent, because we are not autonomous, fully federal. If we were, we would be collecting all taxes at the county level. Then we would be responsible for providing all services at the county level. Pay as you earn, for example, is collected at the county level and by the national government. Hotels, taxes are collected by the national government. AFA taxes are collected by the national government. So the national government collects the bulk of the taxes. So what the counties are left to collect are the small fees in the market and those kind of taxes. And those taxes can never be sufficient to run a county completely independent of the national government. And that's why I said the framers of our constitution never envisioned that we would be completely federal. We are a quasi-system, which is half, where certain functions are still carried by the national government and certain functions are carried by the county, and the issue of revenue collection is shared, with the bulk of the revenue collection being by the national government and very minimal by the county government. And that's why they provided for the National Treasury to have a formula with the National Assembly and Senate of providing resources to the counties. Now, of course, if then therefore that answers the question, is that why people are not willing to pay tax at the county level? I think I've responded to that, saying that people pay as much tax as the law provides, but the counties were never meant to be fully independent. On the issue of the National Treasury, I support that decision. As a former technocrat of the National Treasury, I think that it should be an independent institution, which then is not biased or under direction of the national executive with regard to how much resources should be allocated, or even the provision of the supervision or even oversight rules that the Treasury provides. They should be completely independent of both the national executive and the county executive. And I believe it would be a good move. Whether you'll be able to convince your colleagues at the national level to pass it is another story.
No, I think that can be done through an executive order. It's a president who allocates responsibilities to various ministries, and that's an executive decision that can be made. It does not require a lot. I don't think the PFM, because I've seen you are flanked by, that gentleman introduced himself as chief officer in charge of?
Economic planning, budget, and procurement.
And there was another chief officer in charge of treasury or revenue, finance. And, you know, for you to designate them, you didn't need any legal or statutory amendments. It's your executive order, in the manner in which you want to organize your team. But let's not...
The issue is not so much, sorry, Chair. I think the issue is not so much the roles they carry, but for them to have the independence to make certain decisions that are usually prescribed by the executive.
Okay. Senator Maruma?
Yeah, maybe, Chair, mine would just be a question to the auditor and how they audit this on-source revenue, because we've observed, Chair, that single business permits, we had a dip of, in terms of collection, of about 10 million. Property rent, we had a dip in collection from 52 million to 42 million. also 10 million. Auditor, how do you then ascertain that what the explanation by the governor gives in terms of the anecdote that they collected less because of hard economic times, and so most of the businesses were closed, so then expectedly would have lower collection in terms of single business permits. What type of information do you need to get so that you can verify that? Because then, if you captured this dip in collection of revenue as an audit query, then the management would come with a response that these number of businesses were closed, and so the revenue expected is this list, so that then you can have a confirmation in terms of data, not just maybe the anecdotal evidence that is being given or the conjectures that we're getting from the management. How do you audit this? Because now we want to assist the executive to collect more money. And we need real-time data to show that the dipping in terms of collection was as a result of, yes, number one, hard economic times, and we had this number of businesses that are closed, and it accounted for this amount of money that is not collected.
Auditor General, from your responsibility under 2296, how do you help Parliament on that?
Thank you, Chair. To respond to the Honourable Member, I say that if you look at the revenue projections,
We have already stated the other areas that one touch, the systems environment, the controls. You also need to be more analytical, comparing current and prior year. Because if the economy is growing, then certain lines are dropping, then it's indicative of a leakage. That, in my view, would be the cause. It's not just about economic downturn that is affecting one line and not affecting the others, because it then all needs to be proportional, including parking fees. You know, you need to see a related drop or a related gain. So the challenge you are putting to you is be more analytical. We have not paid a lot of attention to the receipt of revenue reports in the past. And the requirement to report separately